Okay.
All right. You'll do.
I'll do offer you.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
We stand for the great invocation. From the point of light
Within the mind of God, let light stream forth into the minds of men. Let light descend on earth. From the point of love, within the heart of God, let light stream forth into the hearts of men. May Christ return to earth. From the center, where the will of God is known, let purpose guide the little wills of men, the purpose which the masters know and serve. From the center, which we call the race of men, let the plan of love and light work out, and may it seal the door where evil dwells. Let light and love and power restore the plan on earth. Amen.
All right. This morning I have a quantum field of potentialities. Alice and David Byrd, and the avatar grace element. Some of you might be placing too much of a 3D overlay on a morphing quantum field of potentials that leads you to form an attachment to a desired expected outcome, or to wonder, what is this all for and where is it leading? Your expectations are still set in a linear framework of understanding instead of viewing them through a quantum lens. You demand linear explanations for what you feel is happening or not happening, and you judge the mechanics of it through comparison with previous experiences. You might now be entering a state of spiritual neutrality achieved just before ascension into the next higher bandwidth of being, but the lack of peaks and troughs is not designed for this human emotional experience. It seems out of place. Neutrality can be a tough passage. During this phase, you may feel no joy, but also no despair. It is a true emotional flatline. You pass through it eventually, but come out of it changed, different. You have entered an ascended space to another state of being. The joy is found in peace and grace, the little things in life, and the knowledge of who you truly are. You won't go back to being who you were or enjoying the things you enjoyed before. You are preparing for the next life. The things of the past were transient and outside of you, just markers on the road of a material path. You snap pictures and posted an edited version of your story online just to prove that you were happy in that moment. It wasn't real. We have left all that behind. The danger is that you can't possibly know or understand what you do not have a framework for, so you must surrender and trust that your future self has got this. See your future self as a sailor and your current self as the boat. If you try to consciously guide the voyage, your limited understanding, judgment, and expectations will pull you both off course. Most of you have been told you are right where you're meant to be, and you are on your most optimal ascension timeline. Trust that. Our realities are shifting and moving as we continue to go higher, collecting and assimilating other versions of the self, millions of them, in other parallels of time, space, and dimension. If you are sensitive, this might have an impact on your psychology. Fear arises as old feelings and associations designed for the lower light body templates are triggered. You might feel out of control, but you cannot consciously direct what you don't know exists. When in doubt, hold on tightly to the center column of light that runs through your being between the alpha and omega chakras, which is above your crown and below your feet. This will stabilize you. Allow your future self forward. Trust that the sailor has the map and can guide your boat safely with expert precision to all the experiences that are appropriate and necessary for each stage of your evolution and ascension process, while avoiding the ones that are not. Rather than judge your experiences as positive or negative and good and bad, Release the expectations and attachments to outcomes as you embrace the lessons and opportunity for expansion present in all of them. The best you can do for yourself is to enjoy every day and live in the now. There is a subtle difference between creating the new by living in joy and in the now moment and being too attached to the familiarities of the material realm. Feel through that. The peaks and troughs of life even out to become a sustainable sense of peace and joy found in mundane things and the beauty seen in all. The best way to describe the subtlety in this difference is understanding that if you like pretty things and you can buy them, have them. Just don't be attached to them. Know you can walk away from them tomorrow. We are traveling across a light portal bridge on our pathway to higher ascension through multiverses, neutron windows, parallel realities, and timeline gradients that are closely aligned like an echo field or a stone skipping over the ripples on a pond. In time, we may not even notice the differences from one reality to the next. Sometimes we can discern the difference in our reality or our bodies, but our outward view may remain somewhat similar. This is because we are talking what we know with us into each reality that we inhabit. As we follow the ascension timeline, we affect the field of potentials and populate each new reality with our thoughts. So if you don't like your current reality, do something to change it. Change your thoughts. You affect the field by making an infinite number of possibilities a reality, simply by observing the one you've aligned with and choosing to make it manifest. If you like it, do it. If you don't, change something and collapse it. Create the new and take the template with you into the next parallel timeline. Leave behind what does not serve and carry over what does. Collapse the parallel timeline and absorb that version of the self to heal and expand. This is you as the creator of your reality. Whatever you choose to do now or don't choose to do will be evident in each future reality that you create. Thank you. All right, so with that, we have Brett Lloyd speaking for us this morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
It's nice to see faces instead of empty places. I like that a lot. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Brett Lloyd. I'm married to this fine lady over here, Danielle. I'm a medium. I'm a musician. And I'm bald as all get out. Today I want to talk to you all. I mentioned back in October when I first spoke to this group of people, I shared my health journey, how I used to be a little crazy. Well, hear her tell it, I was a lot crazy. And she was probably, that was probably more accurate. And I was very large. I weighed almost 300 pounds at that time. But due to the dietary change that I'm silently advertising, I was able to eliminate all my symptoms, etc. And I got free from major depression with psychotic features. Don't miss that at all. Free from anxiety completely. Don't miss that at all. And insomnia, all gone due to the dietary change. Then the hard part happened. Then I had to teach myself how to unlearn all those old, crazy, Tim, dude, I was not fun to be around.
I was going to say you're crazy now, but I guess it's different, more positive crazy.
That's true.
Like
That's
Santa
true.
Claus.
Yeah, like Santa Claus crazy. And I don't have reindeer to clean up after. My point is, I didn't know how to behave. I had been severely ill for 43 years. I learned all kinds of bad habits. Textbooks, they called them survival skills. I don't know how I survived, to be honest. But thankfully I did. And I had to figure out how to learn to do it. And this was before spiritualism. This was before I knew the Cosmic Church of Truth was in existence. I had never meditated in my life. Spiritualism was just one of those things I sort of kind of heard about. So, and time-wise, we're talking about from August of 2018 to this time last year. Because it was around this time last year when me and this awesome lady walked through those doors for the first time. So the period of learning to be wellness started the morning of August 4th, 2018. That was the day that I'm taking my morning walk at 6 in the morning and my depression symptoms vanished. They just disappeared. It's like somebody flipped a switch. And all that craziness, all that rage, and all that frustration, and all that poor learned behavior related to being angry, to being frustrated, etc., all just went away. But at the end of that, there wasn't this toolbox with my name on it. It says Brett's normality skills. I had been in a negative thought loop for 43 years. Let's go through a list of the little delusions that I believe to be true. Number one, I was convinced that UPS and FedEx hated my guts because they could never do what they said they were going to do. I was one of those weirdos. Delivery by between 4 and 8 p.m. on this date. Well, they said it. They sent me the notice. I'm going to take them at their word. And of course, that seldom ever happened that they showed up on time. How do normal people react to that? Well, it'll get here when it gets here. How did Brett react to that? She'll tell you. They were like, it only happens to me. This never happens to her deliveries. Why is it only happening to mine?
They're all liars.
They're all liars, that's right. And she heard it over and over and over again. Well, one of the first deliveries, I'll never forget this, it was like in September of 2018. And I don't even remember what it was I ordered. But it came 2 or 3 hours later than it was supposed to. And I remember looking at that, and I literally started shaking. Because I'm like, there's this war going on in my head. My normal response to that would be to rehash and recycle all the whole delusion. But I knew that's not why this was late. It's late because there was a horrible storm and there was a ton of water, and it wasn't because they gave a rat's behind about whether I was a satisfied customer or not. It had nothing to do with me. And that started, I realized, man, I've got a lot of things I need to change. How am I going to do that? I've got to replace my whole outlook on everything except her. I had to learn how to engage in conversation. She could tell you when I was crazy, you didn't take me many places because you never knew what I was going to say that was horribly inappropriate to time, place, and situation because I had no fear.
Well, you had too much fear, but
No, I didn't have healthy fear. Let's put it that. How would change it to that? And I did it. I know now because of what I've learned here at Cosmic Church and through my own research and studies. I walked a lot then. I walked a lot then primarily to lose weight and exercise. In January of 2015, I weighed 289 pounds. I now weigh about 175. But I lost that majority of that weight from 2015 through the fall of 2018 walking. And I walked off. I would walk until there would be no tread on the bottom of my shoes, 30, 40 miles a week. She's like, why are you sliding around? She said, let me look at the bottom of your, and they'd be worn through. But they were really comfortable. And I could still keep walking till my feet got too hot. But I learned later, I was doing walking meditations. I was spending all this time forced to look inwardly because she didn't have the answers. No doctor had any of the answers for me. There was no priest that had the answer. Oh, come to church, go to confession. I'm still a recovering Catholic in that regard, though not so much anymore. You all have been a great influence on me, and I appreciate that. My point is, I had nowhere to turn. So I had to look inwardly on my own. And we all know that. How many of us like to sit on the edge of our bed and look inside ourselves honestly? There's nobody holding up their hands. I'm shocked. Well, Heidi's like, well, sometimes, because I'm a little strange that way. But it had to be done. And the part that was really important to me, many, many years prior to this, I worked in the mental health field. I really did. Before I was diagnosed as a mental health patient, I worked with them. Anyway, I was managing a group home of developmentally disabled, mentally retarded folks who had been institutionalized for most of their life. And they started this habilitation program. And there were people that had lived in that structured setting for 30 and 40 years of their life. Many of those asylums would be considered hellholes, rightly. And they just put a bunch of them in group homes, and especially what made it even more fun was people who had been in the institution together for 30 and 40 years that hated each other's guts. Well, they put them all in the same group home. Man, that's smart. Isn't that great? So we had to learn, because people would get aggressive and clients would they would need to be physically restrained somewhat. And we would always use the least amount of force necessary. And we had a very good teacher. His name was Lee Graber. He taught us what's called defensive redirection. Your objective is not to put your hands on them, but to move them to a different activity and hopefully put out the fire that they're trying to start. But he told us something that I have always remembered that has been so critical to my recovery, and I want to share it with you all today because there's some aspect of it you can use for yourself right now. For every don't, there has to be a do. And that's so important. It's easy. Quit smoking cigarettes. Okay, I quit smoking cigarettes. And I didn't replace it with anything. So nature replaced it for me, and I ate every carbohydrate I ever liked in my life. And I ate them all. I tried to eat them all.
Replace it with Altoids.
Yeah, and that with Altoids. I became an Altoid addict because I was on all those psych meds for years and years and years and years. What's one of the side effects of psych meds? Dry mouth. What's one of the cures for dry mouth? Put a mint in your mouth. What cements a sugar addiction really consistently for you? Putting mints in your mouth all day, every day. You can ask her. I could go through, get one of those 12 packs of Altoids. That was a week's worth.
I'd be rich if you could make money off of Altoids cans.
She's not joking. I had to replace what I had been, my whole thought process. I had to, what is food? What is healthy? What is right for me and my physiology? And I had to change it all. If I don't make those changes, then 6 months to a year into my wellness, I would suddenly experience a relapse. And I've been coaching and teaching people how to succeed at this way of living for a long time, and I've watched it happen time and time again. People would do all this really hard work and get themselves lined out and get their life going in a healthier direction. But because they didn't change their mindset and make it a permanent part of their being, 6 months to a year later, I get another phone call. Oh man, I messed up. Can you help me get it right again? And you ask her, I get those calls every day, all the time. Because you've got to change your mindset. I adopted the carnivore lifestyle because I was told I could eliminate my chronic mental illness. And I hated being crazy so badly, I would have done anything to make that happen. Yes, dear?
Did your clients think you were crazy?
No, because I wasn't having clients when I was crazy. Clients came after the wellness, thankfully. But the crazy is why the clients would come to me, though, because they were suffering. And not surprising, most of my coaching clients suffer from mental illness. And yes, ma'am.
Do you think that the carbohydrates make people mentally ill?
Carbohydrates convert to sugar, which inflames the human brain and the human digestive system. I'm living proof not eating sugar won't kill you, and it improves your mood. I've not had a grain of sugar knowingly since 2018, ever, of any kind. For me, there's no taste, there's no texture, there's no social setting worth me putting my mental health at risk. And to be honest, the thought of consuming sugar now is not a pleasant one. I don't even like to smell it. But enough about that. Back to what mattered. The reason why I'm mentioning all this. I had to make those changes. Many of you have issues in your lives that you've been dealing with for years. Maybe it's a relative you couldn't get along with. Something in your life that's just you've never been happy about. And then we do the same things we've always done and wonder why these things, these bad feelings, these issues constantly hound us and follow us every day of our lives. Be honest with yourself. Look inwardly. What do you see when you look inwardly with honest eyes? None of us likes that. We all see things about ourselves that we don't like to acknowledge for any reason. It doesn't make them invalid. doesn't help our behavior to try to ignore them, but we can replace them with something positive. We are not victims. We are creators. Each and every one of us is. So you have the option to look inwardly and honestly, and then you see, oh, I've had a problem with honesty for a long time. Geez, what can I do to fix that? Well, I'm going to quote a gentleman named Dr. Jordan Peterson, an author, and he'll tell you, when we lie, it doesn't just affect us. It affects everything. It ripples out in a destructive way. Yes, dear.
Do you eat corn?
No, ma'am. I only eat meat. I only drink water.
Right.
That's okay.
So no cornets.
No,
I think that's nature's food right there.
that's one of the many millions of reasons I don't put it into my mouth. I promise. I'm so glad you're
Thank
here. Listen, seriously, you look inwardly, you recognize the problem that needs to be replaced. Pull it. But what are you going to replace it with? What did I have? I had to replace my negative thought loop with a positive thought loop, founded in reality. I couldn't just make up something that had no basis in reality, or I'd be back to, in no time. Each and every one of us has an issue or issues that we really know we need to make an adjustment on. You don't have to be a rock, you don't have to have a PhD in anything except breathing to be able to do this. But it's not fun. It's not something you're going to see on, oh, this commercial advertising, yes, self-improvement, da 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 da. Looking inwardly, yeah, it's going to sell booklet, the book's going to sell lots of copies, it's going to be great. Nobody wants to do that. Nobody even wants to hear it most of the time. That doesn't make it any less valid. And I want to encourage you all to take time today. As you're going along, be honest with yourself just for 5 minutes. Just 5 minutes. Be brutally honest with yourself. What is there in my life that I know I need to adjust, that I need to change, that I need to improve, maybe that I need to replace, that can make me the person I've always wanted to be? For me, I just didn't want to be crazy anymore. And then once I got well, then I didn't want to act like I was crazy anymore. I mean, yeah, we could joke. I spent many decades being self-deprecating because that was one way I could make people laugh, even though most of what I was saying was true. Don't have to do that today. Matter of fact, I seldom do that at all because that's not good for me. Negativity. Somebody wants to talk negative, you can be sure that person you see 50 yards away heading in the opposite direction is going to be Brett. Because I don't need that. I don't need to be around it. I won't watch it on television. I won't read about it. And I won't listen to it. Because that's very, very bad for me. I could talk my way back into madness so fast it'd make your head spin if I wanted to. Because I'm in control. I am a creator of my reality, just as each and every one of you are. Don't be afraid to look inside yourself to find the answers to the questions you've been asking all your life. Why do I always feel bad when X, Y, and Z takes place? Well, deep down, you know the reason why. It's just really uncomfortable. I need to be reminded of when that awful thing happened that has caused me so much grief for decades. Yeah, you got to. And then you get it out of your being and replace it with something positive. The list of things I had to learn to do I literally had to change how I interact, not just with her, but with anyone. Because I had to remember, when somebody says, how you doing today, that doesn't mean they want to hear exactly all the details about how you're doing. Because when somebody would ask me that before, when I was woohoo, I'd tell them. I wouldn't give them just a summary. Oh no, I would give them the whole first 3 or 4 chapters. People finally quit asking me how I was doing. Don't ask him, he'll tell you. Run! It's not necessary. And we do that to ourselves so often without even realizing. We'll remember something from our past that creates that moment of, oh gosh, I can't believe that. I can't believe whatever. But it never goes away and stops coming to us when we don't change our mindset, when we don't take that negative out of our being and replace it with something positive. We're perpetually reminded of these things. These days, all I'm reminded about, except when I have to give talks and speak, is positivity. Do you know it takes less energy to smile than it does to frown? Now that sounds so ridiculous to me, especially, no, there's no way that's true. I would try to sit down and figure out a way to argue why that was incorrect, but it's the truth. When I was angry and furious and pissed off all day, every day, I was exhausted. Being angry all the time, well, geez, try being angry for more than 10 minutes if you can. Next time you feel a good one coming on, see if you can make it last more than 10 minutes. I'm exhausted. I want to lay down and take a nap. I don't have time for that. Can replace the negatives with positives. Each and every one of us have done that, do it on a regular basis without realizing it. But the really painful stuff, we stay away from that because that's scary. That hurts. But once we get rid of that which really harms us, then we can blossom into the flowers we were always supposed to become. And we can be beacons of joy, beacons of light, beacons of happiness for other people. And one of the things that I have learned through the course of this long wellness journey, and even now, after learning about spiritualism, experiencing the wonderful things I have, people are still watching and paying attention. We are all examples of how to do things to other people, whether we want to be or recognize it or not. I have found out many times from people who will start following me. I've never spoken to them. They follow me on social media. Brent, I just want you to know that what you said in such and such interview has had such a profound impact on me. I'm not saying that because, yay, Brett. No. I'm saying that because it had an impact, because I was being positive. I was offering positive solutions to people who were desperate to receive a ray of hope from anywhere. You can ask anybody who's ever suffered from mental illness, when did they want to get better? And my answer to that is always, the day before I got better. Anything to make the misery end sooner. But being positive, being honest with ourselves when we look inwardly, gives us the opportunity to change our reality. It gives us the opportunity to seek out the light, whereas before we only saw darkness. To seek that happiness that we've been on a quest for. What do you want out of your, what's your purpose in life? I just want to be happy. Well, the only one stopping you from being happy is the person you see in the mirror. All the time. Unless you're in some kind of really pathological environment where you have somebody committing abusive acts against you, which I hope never happens to anyone, ever. We can all make those positive changes within ourselves. We all have the ability. One of the best lessons I've ever gotten about mediumship was when a lady in northern Kentucky told me, stop looking outside yourself for answers. It's time to look within, for that's where the answers really lie. For all of us. And I want to encourage everybody to take that 5 minutes. Not as a, oh gosh, for 5 minutes, it won't make me do that. No. Do it for your own good. And look inwardly. And ask yourself, do I need to make any changes here? And if you do so with joy in your heart. Don't do so with dread and regret. People all the time, carnivore is hard. Living the way you do is hard. And the only thing in life that's difficult is what we choose to make difficult. And how many times have we made most of us are a little past 25. So I know this has happened to a good many of the people in here. When we finally got old enough to, and something dawned on us and we finally understood it for the first time, and you're like, oh man, Mom and Dad were right. Oh my goodness, I was wrong all that time. And do it without beating yourself up. Doing it without taking a hammer and whacking yourself upside the head with it. And be happy because you made a true, valid discovery about yourself. And you can see a path to making the necessary adjustment to bring that happiness that you so rightly deserve. And just bring it into your life. I experience effortless daily happiness each and every day. Not because I'm special. Because I'm not. I'm just flesh and bone like every one of you are. It happens every day because that's what I choose to have happen. I am the creator of my reality. And my reality is one of joy and contentment and a desire to help everyone feel as good as I do. And if you can feel better than me, that's awesome, because then you can teach me how you did it. Has anybody got any questions or comments? Yes, dear.
What about the fat?
What do you mean, what about the fat? 'Cause-
Like in meat, like bacon and stuff like that?
Okay, animal fat, number one, is very satiating. It's also a source of energy for the body. One of the greatest things our physiology can do is put itself into ketosis. And that's when we get to the place where we're no longer burning exogenous glucose for energy, but we're burning our own fat to create glucose to burn for energy. So we become our own energy factory when we only eat meat and only drink water. That fat is critical. Somebody who tries the carnivore lifestyle or even the ketogenic lifestyle, keto diet, they don't consume enough fat, boy, their batteries run dead real fast. They suddenly lifeless, listless, no muscle energy, no fat. Animal fat is good for humans to consume. The problem is when you consume sugar along with animal fat, that's not a good combination. That's when you start getting larger sizes of clothing.
That's why foods that are made from sugar and fat are very fattening.
That's correct.
You can't have both sources of energy. One of them will get stored.
That's exactly right. One will be stored. So I hope that, yes, sir, you have another question. Go ahead.
Why not eat vegetables and meat?
Pardon, say that again?
Why not just eat vegetables and meat?
Well, that works for some people. I'm not one of those people. And millions of people aren't. For millions of people, vegetables are extraordinarily inflammatory. Plants cannot run away. Plants don't want to be eaten. In fact, there's studies now that show plants actually, when you cut a plant from the roots, they make an audible noise. And of course, since we know where electrons are present, sentience is present, I'm not surprised. But in those plants, how can plants fight off being eaten? They only fight off being eaten with natural toxins that are not bioavailable except to humans and other predators. That's very bioavailable. And the nutritional value of plants compared to meat, it's no contest, because most nutrition in plants is not bioavailable. Now, I grew up on we had a big garden. I had fresh tomatoes year round. Man, I loved to eat fresh tomatoes. We had we had fresh stuff year round. That was good eating. Mom and Dad thought we were living right. We all thought we were living right. My little baby 6-foot-tall sister almost died from ulcerative colitis from eating that way. Ultimately, my dad died in 2020 after decades of type 2 diabetes brought on by eating that way. And if you go and find one of those old farmer books, yes, I'm sorry, I didn't see your hand.
Oh, you're fine. I was waiting for you. I was just.
Okay, no, go ahead, go ahead.
You can.
No.
Oh, I was just going to share with everyone. I felt really good today. I actually went and did a colonic yesterday, hydrotherapy, after a full week parasitic cleanse. and like I feel like a brand new person.
Good for you.
I cleanse with like wormwood, walnut. I've actually been led to go vegan, so I have not ate meat or anything since then. And like I prayed about it one day, and I said I don't think I'm supposed to be eating this, but it goes back to what you said, each person. And I said you have got to show me not what if I should not be eating this.
Mhm.
The next day there was a worm that long in the meat that just came right out, and it was that long in my food. So I said, okay, that's my answer. I'm not eating this anymore. So I never did. And then like I found all these spiritual books that taught me that we should be eating from the earth. We should be eating all the holistic foods from the gardens and all that stuff. So I know what you're talking about, and I know there's certain people that are on that, but like I feel like I'm reborn with the food that I'm eating. Like and then also I take She Legit, I take chlorophyll, I take spirulina, and I feel like it's just rebuilding me. And I would recommend She Legit for everyone in here. It makes you feel like invincible. So
I want to thank you for sharing that. And what you have just proven is one really important thing with regard to human diet. It is not a one-size-fits-all paradigm.
I agree, it's not. Yeah.
And I have never said and will never say that everyone should do what I'm doing, because it's not for everyone.
But I will recommend everyone to get a colonic though. After I got my colonic, during midway through, she kind of massaged my stomach, and there was like black stuff. And I'm 42 years old, so I think we do carry really old, grotesque things from a long time ago. Even if you do like a regular flush, it's still stuck in there.
We do carry, and in fact, trauma that we carry around can be representative
Yeah,
of exactly that kind of blackness. I had an experience where I'm not going to go into all the details of it. Basically, I was told from an outside source that I was carrying trauma around from when I got hit by a car when I was 11 years old, and that I wasn't going to be able to progress one step past where I was until I eliminated that. And it was, I remember, I won't mention how, it was eliminated through a natural human physiological process, let's just say that. And I felt like a chunk of darkness had been eliminated from my life. And it was just old trauma. So there's all kinds of things within us. A good many of them we would do well to quietly. Yes, sir.
I was wondering, what do you season your meat with?
Salt.
Just salt?
Just salt.
No pepper?
No.
Okay, and no other ingredients? at
No
all?
other ingredients.
Just salt.
Just salt.
All right.
I cook with beef salt. I cook with beef tallow, salt, and bacon grease. That's it. Yes, dear.
Could you share where you went and got your colonics?
Colonics with Care. Colonics with Care, and she's awesome. I highly recommend.
I'm really glad you came today.
I did too. I was getting nervous. I was like, I agree with what you're saying. Like everyone has different. We're all make up differently, and I have like a specific blood type. I have looked into like eating right for your blood type. I'm gonna totally be honest. Like after 4 or 5 years in, I was lacking and had deficiencies from. So it took a lot of effort because I said I'm not eating that when I'm going to find something else to supplement. So that's where it came in. Like I go and get IV injections with all the vitamins and stuff. I get those, and the She Legit is a lifesaver because it's like all the minerals. I've taken lots of amino acids, so that's probably stuff you're getting from the meat that I won't get from. So it's like you got to find balance somewhere. Even if you don't want to eat that, you better find it somewhere else.
It's been interesting. I've had a lot of people say, well, what about this lab work and what about that lab work? Well, number one, I don't judge my health based on lab work. I judge my health based on how I feel.
Yeah.
Number two, my lab work just gets better every time somebody's willing to pay for it. My cholesterol is just, well, in January of 2015, my trigs were over 300. In 2019, my trigs were 55. They've since, in the last time I had somebody was curious enough to pay for the lab work was the spring of 2022, and my trades were down to 51. Yes, ma'am.
Do you find it feels different if you eat an animal that's been taken well care of as opposed to one that has not?
It is, it's a great question. It is a known fact. The calmer an animal is when it's harvested, the better the quality of the meat. There is no upside to stressing out animals before they're harvested. None whatsoever. So that's always important.
Well, people who hunt are stressing out that animal. When
No, not if they shoot well. If you know how to use your weapon, that animal's going to die in an instant. It's not going to be stressed.
Don't even know you're there.
Exactly. It won't even know it's dead. It's that easy. Yes, sir.
I had the feeling from what you were talking about, the key to getting the proper diet for yourself
Yeah.
is based first on the introspection, that brutal, honest introspection. I'm really listening to what your body's telling you makes you feel good.
Yeah. Yes.
That's in a nutshell. For you, it's the carnivore diet.
Mm-hmm.
For someone else, it's a vegan diet.
Sure.
For someone else, it's what a mixture of whatever.
Mm-hmm.
It depends upon how their body responds to the dietary balance. Correct?
That's correct. I agree.
Okay, I got you.
And you know, like I said, it's the biggest mistake people make when they start trying to promote a diet. See, for me, this is not a diet. Diets have a start date and an end date. I've adopted a lifestyle that works beautifully for me, works great for her. Would not work well for her at all. Tim, we're not sure about it. I appreciate your all's attention so very much. I hope you all got something useful out of this. Yes, dear.
my aunt and uncle are on the carnivore diet and they love it.
Good for them.
Yeah.
Tell them Brett, the thankful carnivore, said hi.
Okay, I will.
I appreciate you all so very much. Be kind to yourselves. Keep coming back. And it's always a pleasure to get to speak with this community.
Thank you, Brad. Next time, bring me sticks.
I'll bring them back Fallout style. It'll be bits of squirrel and a stick.
Thank you, Brett.
You're welcome, sir.
All right, Tim's gonna take off offering for us. We'll go over announcements. Weekday events are at 7 p.m. here
Yes.
for the most part. Fourth Tuesday of the month is astrology class, and Nikki will be holding that this month. Wednesdays, first and third Wednesdays, spiritual chat with Nan on Zoom. And then the second and fourth Wednesdays, Yoga Nidra here with Daniela. Every Friday night we have a spiritual mind gathering with Kelly or Karen. Our next psychic fair is June 8th, and this coming Saturday, is that right? Is Day of Healing. That's from 11 to 4 on Saturday. Kelly has her mediumship, meditation, and mystic arts class on
Third Tuesday is the month.
so 21st. That's this Tuesday. Jody has her third class on manifestation on June 1st. Karen did her tea leaf reading class yesterday, which was awesome. We had 10 people. She wasn't expecting but 5 or so. It was a really good class.
Good.
Yeah. All right, Jeanette has Reiki 2 class coming up Thursdays in June. There's 3 classes, 7 to 9 p.m. here at the church. Reiki 1 is required for that. Anything that I missed? anointing. And that's all I got. So, Brett, you want to join us? Send energy to the basket, please do. God, Holy Spirits, we thank you for this day. Thank you for our speaker, the message that he brought to us. Bless this offering. Help us to use it for our church and our community. Bring us back to the next appointed time. All these things we ask in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen.
It is.
Thank you, guys. All right. Get seated, and can we stand for the benediction?
Yes.
The recovering Catholic, you know, okay, from the unreal,
lead us to the real. From darkness, lead us to the light. From death, lead us to immortality. And peace throughout the world. Amen.
Did a good job.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Enjoyed it.
Hi, how are you?
Just stay here for a minute, okay?
Thank you for sharing, yeah.
Did,
Yeah.
did they have take home dinners?